Today's video isn't anything to do with CB really. All we have here is a Maxon Apex 520 heavy duty handheld from about 1989-1990, and that's a UHF one. I bought it from a Radio Rally for a tenner, and I want to put it on the local 70cm repeater. So I've already ordered some crystals and they've arrived here, and I have a service manual which I was able to download. This is the Australian version, so the frequency band is stated here as 450 to 470 when this radio is actually 420 to 440 if I remember rightly. It is the radio is the correct band, the manual isn't. So I'm going to open this up because we've got absolutely no idea as to whether it's got CTCSS. We're going to need to have CTCSS encode, not necessarily decode, and we'll see. So I've never looked inside this. £50 reward if found. Oh great. So I'll open it up. It's nice corrosion I can see. When I was manager at a Nottingham communications company for some years, I had one of these on their business radio repeater for all the years I was working there, and it was just so reliable, and I could get in from 40 odd miles away. So open it up. Oh dear, this hasn't been open for some years. Sorry about the background music. We have a background music system here, and I don't think I've turned down the all the loudspeakers, which I normally do. Okay, so we'll unplug the speaker and microphone. Yeah, well, I'll come back to the camera in a moment when I've actually got the board out of the radio. Okay, so we've turned down a couple of the background music speakers. Hopefully you won't get that anymore. So what we've got it out of the case. Now it's got two pairs of crystals installed, and I noticed they're 441, 427, so it's been on a repeater, commercial two-way radio repeater. So it is the band I was promised it was, so that is correct. So what we're going to do, it hasn't got CTCSS fitted, and it's the early version which doesn't have the cable harness in, so we will just put an encoder in. I'll no doubt have to order one, so I can see this is going to be in several parts. But what we're going to do at the moment, and we're in the audio workshop rather than the RF workshop because I just feel there's better light in here, despite piles of fluorescence in the other one. What we're going to do is I'll put the crystals in, and we should be able to tune up the transmitter without the RF equipment. I'll just put a dummy load in and we'll go through the multipliers. So I'll do that with you, because some of you might also want to put a vintage Maxon Apex handportable on your local amateur radio repeater for those who are suitably licensed. So we will open up those crystals. I ordered two pairs. These came from Quartz Lab. And we used to use the commercial crystal people, High Q International, but they don't seem to be in the UK anymore. I did a Google search and their factory unit seems to be something else these days. So the crystal specification, as shown in the service manual here, is quite a big multiplication for UHF. Its transmit is frequency divided by 27. So because we're on the 77's amateur radio band, to bring that into the 430s, we're looking at 16 point something megs for crystals for that. And then for the receive side, the IF of the radio is 21.4 meg, so it's the frequency you want minus 21.4 and then divided by 9, which brings us into crystals in the 45 section. And they're quite a stringent specification, these, so they weren't cheap. In fact, it would have been cheaper to buy a brand new synthesized cheapo radio from China than to resurrect that, but I particularly want to, so there we go. So what we're going to do is I'll switch the soldering iron on and we'll get those old crystals taken out and thrown away, and we'll put a pair of new crystals in on the channel 1 position. Okay, so now we've got those 2 new crystals installed. So the transmit one is there and the receive one is there. So next thing we're going to do, we'll go over to the RF workshop and we'll start going through the multiplier for the transmitter. That's a 5-watt transmitter. I've actually known them to do 7, but you really need to keep it down to 5 or you're going to be thrashing the battery, and there's also the health hazard if you are up in the 7-watt region on UHF. So the way we apply power, because once the case has been taken off, you've got no battery. I did order a battery from Germany for this in the hope that it will work. I have every faith. It's 10.8 volts, and we're going to apply the positive to that can. That can is in fact, that is not earth, it's positive 10.8, and we're going to apply another crocodile clip to the earth, which is, that's the output transistor. All this is earth. So between that can and there we'll apply the 10.8 volts. So we'll stick that into the test instruments, and then we'll go up the multiplier chain as shown in the service manual here. Did they tell you to do transmit first? Let's have a look. Yes, they do. So that's sensible. Right. So I'll just move over to the other workshop, and we will not be using a camcorder. We're using the overhead CCTV system. So here we are in the RF workshop. There's the radio now connected to the 10.8 volt power supply. I've also connected up the extension speaker, which is doing nothing, and I've also connected up the aerial into the radio test set, which is the Marconi one in this room. So what do we have to do? Well, connect an RF watt meter to the antenna jack and a 0 to 3 volt voltmeter to test point 4. Press the transmit switch. Tune 10, 11 and 12 for maximum. 10, 11 and 12. So 10, 11 and 12. 10, 11, 12. 10, 11, 12 for maximum. And then it says, and transformer 13 for dip. So that's, you'll see a little dip on the meter. Then move the meter over to test point 5 and just touch up the coils I've mentioned for maximum. So there's 13. So it's maximum, 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 dip. Test points, if I remember rightly, are an absolute pain to find. So I will just go and find them. I think there's, oh, there actually isn't. Is a little loop just there. So I'll just zoom in and see if you can see that little zoom, that little loop. Just move the radio into position. The resolution goes off because we're going into digital zoom. So that's the first test point, and that's the second test point. So we'll use an electronic multimeter. Normally, when I was doing these in the workshop all those years ago at Nottingham, we'd use an extension speaker. Sorry, an extension speaker mic. And then I could work the PTT more easily because the PTT's there, and then I'm going to be faffing around trying to get the test prods on a meter. So I'll just pause the video and I'll just put a meter into position. Okay, so I've got the meter hooked up. I'm using an analog meter here, and I've pressed the transmit whilst the camera was off, and it is actually transmitting. So we're going from we're only going from 427 megs, which it was previously on transmit, to mid 430s, you know, for the 70 centimeter band. So it's not far of a movement. So I will now do that first multiplier. So if remember, it was for maximum. Trying to get my hand in as well. So that's drop, that's maximum. There we go. It's actually doing, at the moment it's actually doing 2 watts. Then we want dip on this one, and that gives us dip. So I'm going to go backwards and forwards on those till there's no improvement can be got. Do that about 3 times. Okay, so we can now dispense with the meter. That's done, and it's now doing 2.5 watts. Now I've done that multiplier, strip those 4. So whilst I've now got some nice transmit, I will put it on frequency. So it's going to be the hard to get to trimmer capacitor, which, if I remember rightly, without looking at the manual, is the one under the wiring harness there. So it's pretty close. No, it's not that one. It's that one. There we are, spot on frequency. So that was easy peasy. So next thing, we're going to tune up the actual transmitter. So if we just look at the service manual again. So back to this page, amplifier tuning, TC 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13 for maximum. So 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13 for maximum. So nine, 10, 11, 12. It's as simple as that. We've done the multiplier, we've done the frequency with TC5. So it was the receive one I inadvertently did initially, because that's the transmit side. It's funny that, isn't it? Because there's the transmitter, there's the receiver, yet that's the receive crystal and that's the transmit crystal, and there you are, that's a schoolboy error. So trimmer capacitor 5 is actually the one for channel A. So 9, 10, 11 and 12. So that's what we're going to now do. So going into transmit, and we're now doing just over 2 watts. So that's peaked. That one's got wiring in the way, which is very frustrating. I might have to come back. I'll skip that for a moment. So we're still at about 2.25 watts. And we're still at 2.25 watts. So somehow I need to just move those wires out of the way. think we've got the tool in there now. Just go through them again. I'm just going to spin that one round, it's a bit dirty. Okay, so I'm going to change ranges because this test instrument, it's 0 to 3 watts. And then we'll go through them again. Got to appreciate that it's out of band on transmit, because it's supposed to be for business radios, and so you're on 427-ish for your transmit and 442-ish for your receive. So to have it all around the 430 to 440 kind of thing makes the radio slightly out of band. So we've actually, having gone through that several times, we've actually just touching 4 watts. It's not quite doing 5, but you know, that's how we are, and I'm not bothered about that. That's going to work great. So I'll go and fetch the front panel back because I'm going to need to do the deviation. So I'll just pause the camera. I've actually had to do this off camera, so we've got the oscillator up to the speaker. There we go. Press transmit, and I've got the deviation to around about 2.5 kilohertz there. I will just give it the whistle test. That's not easy. So there we have it. Now, where is the deviation control? So when you look at the service manual, the deviation control is RV1. So where the receive channel A trimmer is, it's just there. Well, in reality, again, it's under the wiring harness. So just got to kind of push it apart, and right down there, I'll zoom in, but the picture will go crummy because it's digital zoom. You will just see there the preset. So not an easy place, but once set, it shouldn't need adjusting again. I mean, considering that radio has come out of a rally scrap box kind of thing for a tenner, and not that it's even worth that, it's worth diddly squat. But I mean, this is what, about 1989, so it's already, you know, 30 years old, and it's not needed a repair on the transmit side. It's just gone straight on. So there you go. That's tuned up the Maxon Apex 520 heavy duty. Now I'm just going to walk out of the room and walk back in again with another radio. This is the light duty version. So instead of having the metal down the size of the case which you saw on the other, this is the light duty one. And at the time, these were £379 and those were 440, I think they were, the heavy duty ones. They're a lot of money. So I bought this from new, and this is on 77s. I've got there's 4 channel capability. There's a couple of, there's 4 repeaters in here by the looks of it. No, there aren't. 3 repeaters and SU22 channel. So I was originally going to put the crystals I've just bought in this radio, which I know works and I've owned from new, but the light duty Maxon Apex I found were drifting frequency quite regularly, and it was annoying. Well, we found a heavy duty one with its metal chassis. We never seemed to need to adjust them, so when that came up at a rally I changed my mind. So we're doing this one instead with just the 1 channel in it. So there you go, that's the Maxon Apex CP0520 heavy duty, and it's the old version, I'll be fitting CTCSS behind the scenes. Originally you would have put the CA1111 in, which is that module, which was transmit and receive CTCSS. We only need transmit for ham radio use, and unfortunately I just don't have one kicking around, and it fits. I'll just turn the power off or we'll end up shorting something out. It fits in that little bit of a bulge on the case, just there, so it's made to fit there. But the later version has the wiring harness and it just plugs in. On this early version we'll actually have to wire it in kind of by hand to the point shown. Now I'm only going to need, as I say, encode. They did do an encoder only, and it's the CA1112, which is an encoder only, and it fits in that space. But I mean, the chances of getting one of those 30 years later is highly unlikely. So we'll fit a general purpose one. I'll have a look on eBay. There's people doing encoders for about £7.50, and we'll just follow the wiring. It tells us which one. So it's CA1112, so we'll be connecting the power there, the earth there, and the yellow is the audio to there. So that's all we'll have to do, because that's all you need, because it'll be actually encoding all the time. There's no point making it switchable because it can be on all the time. So there's only power and the output, so it's a doddle to fit, 3 wires, and I'll get something general purpose off eBay. So do another video and that'll be the receive side. Now I haven't heard anything coming out of this radio, so whether or not that's because the extension speaker socket's corroded, but I will just unplug our extension speaker, put the power back on. No, it's absolutely dead on receive, so we'll have to do a bit of service work to that, won't we? So thank you for watching. Not a CB video, but turning an elderly business radio set discarded many years ago by somebody into a ham radio set for 70 centimeters. Thanks for watching.